Hello, and welcome. This is the Soul Eater channel, and today we are talking about game design. I'll be upfront with you guys. I am not an expert. I have never designed a game. However, I've been studying game design for many, many years from people who actually do know what they're doing. So it is my hope that I can give you good advice, even though I've never done a finished project before. I have started projects. Usually the problem is a lack of coding knowledge, artistic knowledge, and not really going out to look to find a team. But, you know, it is what it is. So today, I'm going to be applying some of that game design knowledge to tabletops. Pen and paper role-playing games, you know, those ones. If you don't know what it is, you should look it up because it's pretty cool. So, today we're talking about vision and a format, I guess you could call it, called MDA, which is extremely useful for game design. It was developed by some researchers somewhere. I forgot the exacts. I don't know everything. But, you know. So, we're going to first break down what MDA is, what it stands for, and then we're going to talk about vision, and then I'm going to go through a little bit of the basics with you guys in the context of making my own tabletop RPG, which is going to be based on the Touhou Project series. Yeah. So, without further ado, I guess let's get into it. So, MDA. What does it stand for? Well, that's way too tiny. Hang on a second. You can barely see it. There we go. Don't mind me. Okay. So, the M is mechanics. Or a mechanic. However you want to say it. However you want to do it. So, you have a mechanic. You have the design. And you have the aesthetics. So, mechanics describe the code, rules, etc. of the game. What mechanics are is what the developer creates. That's what it's the bounds you set for the player. This, out of these three, is the only part you can directly influence. Design is how the player acts, which is fairly self-explanatory. Aesthetics is it's how the player feels. Now, the important part about all this is that these are not isolated. These influence each other. The mechanics will control how the player acts, and how the player acts will control how the player feels to some extent. You can't, just make the player act a certain way or make them feel a certain way, but you can design mechanics that will make them act or feel a certain way. If you're creating a scary game, you might want to make them feel afraid. You might want to make them feel less powerful. If you're creating like a super action heavy thing or whatever, you want to make them feel empowered. So you need to figure out how to make them act in a way that's going to make them feel that way, and you can kind of work your way backwards. Or you can take mechanics from things that already give that feeling and work them forwards. Games are a whole load of different mechanics that are all kind of working together and sometimes working against each other to make a game operate. It's really important for a game that every piece of it kind of works together to deliver the same experience. And that is where a strong vision comes in. Vision is, in my personal opinion, the most important part of a game. A vision is just generally a statement of intent. What do you want your game to be? It's as simple as that, but having that strong vision will keep everything tied to that goal. It's essentially a goal, really, for your design. Yeah. So you want to start a project with this strong vision in mind, so that way you can build the mechanics to make the player act a certain way, to make them feel a certain way, that is all going to be in line with that vision. You know? So, that's what we're talking about today. I guess I should make a side note now. This stream is, even though I'm streaming it, it's kind of intended to be more of a video. I'll probably do a little bit of editing at some point down the line and turn this into a video, and then remove the stream itself. So yeah, if you join late or something like that, it is what it is. You can just watch the VOD. It won't be that long, I promise. So we understand how this works now, how mechanics, how the MDA system, vision, all that. I think we've got a pretty solid understanding of it right now. I guess we can draw some more lines to illustrate this, because the aesthetics will adhere to your vision, and your vision will create the mechanics that cause all that. But yeah, I think that's about right. So, what does this mean for, or rather, yeah, what does this mean for our example project here? So, let's start coming up with a vision. And then we can maybe brainstorm mechanics, or rather we can brainstorm how we want the player to feel to fit that vision, how we want the player to act to create that feeling, and the rules, therefore, that will create that action. So, let me just quickly erase a lot of this right now. I have not used Microsoft Paint, really. Oh, wait, I can just do this. Boop. All right. So I am making, as my example, a Touhou Project tabletop, or rather tabletop RPG. So what does that mean for the vision? It would be something that is, we could say, it's, okay, actually, hang on a second here. Let me start with I guess a common pitfall it would be. So we could start by saying our vision is to make it like the Touhou Project games. I'm fumbling at the keyboard, please excuse me. So we say like the Touhou Project games. What does that mean? Having a vision that is, just something that's like this or something that's like that. It's not clear. It's not clear enough. I'll be honest, I don't have a single statement for how I want it to be, but I have a collection of ideas, and so I'm going to share that. Essentially, like, what do I think the source material ultimately is? What is it? If it's like the source material, then what is that like? Well, as a friend once described to me that it was like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure but with magical girls, and I on some levels, yes, that's correct. On other levels, it's not quite. It's mythology, it's fantasy, it's almost got a fairy tale like feel to it. Everything about the setting feels very magical. And I don't mean like as in like high magic fantasy. I mean as in like you never quite know what's going to happen. It's got an almost childlike wonder to it. But that's something that you can't really write into a rule set. That's something that the game master is going to be building into their stories and things like that. But what we can do, we need GM tips for building a world that can, or for other, running a world where anything can happen. Like anything can be around the corner. There's also, what is the combat like? How does this feel? Combat should be definitely exhilarating. And something that, especially in my favorite moments in the series, is always a thing, is this sort of push and pull. My favorite boss fights in the series and things like that are always ones that have this kind of back and forth to them. For example, I don't, if you've ever played the games, if you haven't, then you can look this up. But in Stage 4 of Touhou 8, you are fighting one of the protagonists of the game, depending on who you play as. And the fight starts off with them, their attacks and their abilities are very oppressive, almost. No matter who you're fighting. It's rather difficult if you're not super good at the games, you know. And it's a huge difficulty spike. It makes you feel overwhelmed. Like you can't possibly win. Like you have to squeak by if you're not prepared for it. And then as you go through the fight, as you get maybe about 2/3 of the fight, they are forced to run away and you chase them down. The music is blaring. The environment is racing by. You are mowing down hordes of enemies between encounters with them. And then that last part of the fight flies by as you're just dealing with their strongest attacks and stuff like that. And it feels like you went snapping from disempowerment to being very powerful. And that sort of shift, that dynamic, is what I want the combat to emulate. That feeling of sudden power, sudden exhilaration, sudden from disadvantage to advantage. And maybe we can even make it cyclic. Like, from advantage to disadvantage to advantage again. That's what I want for the combat. Let's say. Now, what's also another important aspect of it is a sort of creativity. The characters need to be diverse and varied, with many options that are all fun to use. Okay, we need a lot of character building options, because characters in this series are extremely varied. They have a number of special abilities, of races, of personalities, of little quirks that they are good at or not good at, like that are not even pertaining to the main idea of their character. And there's a lot of hidden depth to backstories and things like that. In particular, I want to make a note, actually, that backstory should be made available as an option. Like, I don't know how yet. This is just something I've been thinking about. But I've noticed a lot of the most interesting characters, they don't advertise their backstory, but it's always present in their design. Characters like Moko, characters like Sakuya, have hints at very, very deep backstories with a lot of detail to them that they don't really talk about too much, but it's always present whenever they're around. And that kind of thing is important, I think, for making interesting characters. So we have a number of things, from character creation to combat to, GM tips. Additionally, another note about the combat: highly tactical, but not too demanding. Needs to be simple, snappy, but with hidden depth. Now that's a tall order, I know. That one's something easy to say, but hard to do. But I have some ideas. I think I know how to do it. It's not as easy as just saying that, I know. But this is also a tabletop idea that I've been thinking about for maybe about 4 years now. So I've been putting together things. And actually, you may have noticed I played Lost Branch of Legend on Monday. That game actually was the final spark, so to speak, to put all my ideas together and sort of make this all come together in a satisfying way. I think that about does it for our vision of what the game should be. Yeah. So you can use a vision like this as like a guiding light for what you want your mechanics and therefore your design and your aesthetics to be. They should always work towards that vision. It's your mission statement, and you're trying to adhere to it as much as possible. I guess as some final notes, if you're interested in the Touhou Project series, there's a lot of videos out about the lore and stuff like that on YouTube. I know a lot of the lore, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm... maybe we'll do it. Maybe I can go wiki surfing at one point and talk about the lore on stream. That would be actually kind of fun. But yeah. So another thing to just wrap up with is I know there are also other Touhou tabletop RPGs, right, out there. I don't mean anything bad to the creators or anything like that. I've played about every tabletop for Touhou that I found in English. I'm still learning Japanese, so I'm not going to be able to find any Touhou tabletop projects that I'm going to be able to read in Japanese. But as far as the English ones and the ones that have been translated, I am decidedly underwhelmed. None of them really felt like they were functional. And I think that's a kind of a shame, but it's also something that I can very much understand, because with a series so unbelievably diverse and creative and long running, with a history behind it like no one would, it's something that is very difficult to tackle. It's a very big project. But at the same time, I feel like it is something that, might be neat. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But, yeah. This has been a short stream, but, that's kind of what it is, because it's basically just like a 20-minute video talking about game design, So I guess that's it. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Game design is something I'm very passionate about, and I want to talk about a lot going forward. So I think I might turn that into a Wednesday thing, where we can keep talking game design and working on this Touhou Project tabletop. And we'll see. And maybe I'll take some breaks every now and then to talk about whatever. I don't know. Wednesday could be just that. So, yeah. I guess that's it. I feel like I should be saying more, but there really isn't much more to talk about on this subject. I guess, well, I can say next time we'll be going into what we want we'll be kind of going deeper into MDA and what we want our aesthetics to be and our design to be and our mechanics to be based on that vision. But yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been Soul Eater. Thank you for watching my ramblings about game design and tabletops and Touhou Project. Okay, bye.